like sucking, but I ain't gay.
Legit bad podcast.
Fuck those honkies.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
He really knows how to suck a wiener.
Welcome back to Legit Bat. Our guest tonight is Steve Poikonen. Is it Poikonen or Poikonen? I always get that wrong. Poikonen, okay. From Slow News Day, and that's available on Rockfin. And where else? Is that just it? Rockfin?
Rumble, and then Spotify, and should be out on every RSS feed by like mid-month.
Nice. And you do a show pretty much every day, right?
Yeah. The Monday through Friday show is called AM Wake Up and stands for Anarchy in the Morning, and that's 7 to 10 a.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday.
Awesome. Well, Steve is our new neighbor-ish, a couple hours away, but he moved back over to the NorCal area for. And if you're on the video, you can see his background. It looks fucking amazing out there, and we're gonna have to go visit him sometime. But dude, it's been about a year, I think, since we've talked to you. So what have you been covering on Slow News Day?
Oh, good Lord, man. So, I mean, as we march further into the Technocratic panopticon and, CBDC hell, and we just saw with Binance getting gone after by the SEC, how the cryptocurrency space, like we've been saying for years now, is on the chopping block and next for some pretty draconian regulation in terms of the way the state's going to be intervening in your digital financial transaction life. And basically, I mean, the whole reason I'm doing any of this is because I want to have a more complete picture of how the world around me works, and so it's a pretty steady regimen of conversations with people who are actively opting out, people who are actively digging into finding out more answers, and people who are in general promoting solutions to extricating yourself from the boot of the state.
What do you think about things like crypto? Because our listeners are very familiar with how I feel about it. Mostly, I just don't know enough about it to have an informed opinion. But I don't think it's my current opinion is that it kind of is a primer for something like a CBDC, at least getting you used to it. And also the way the monetary system works now is kind of a primer for that, because we don't really use actual cash anymore. It's all zeros and ones in your bank account. So what's your opinion on like Bitcoin and Ethereum and things like that?
I think that like any technology, it's a double-edged sword, and like any tool, it's only as good as the person who's using it. And so it represents to me, I think, at least a doorway to understanding, especially for people now who have grown up without, being outdoors as much, or without the opportunity to operate on a barter economy or alternative economies, stuff like that, gives them the ability to understand how a counter economy would work, and what the basic operating foundational principles of a counter economy could be. Whether or not it actually does that, I don't think it does. I don't think that the final answer to everyone's economic liberation lies within any current form of cryptocurrency, or perhaps even cryptocurrency at all. But I do think that it gets people thinking about it in a way that they wouldn't ordinarily, or they haven't traditionally. And that's huge to me, because as soon as people start thinking differently, then you get to have real conversations with them.
Yeah, and I mean, crypto's, well, what is it, about 10 years old, 10, 12 years old, but it's still newer, or new enough that most of the people, unless you're a Gen Zer, don't really kind of grasp it. And I think a lot of people in our space are more, like you were saying, like a barter economy type of thing, where just moving away from that kind of thing in general, like the currency trading for goods, and instead trading services for goods or goods for goods or something like that. But that sounds a lot easier than it really is, especially in a modern day world, you know.
Well, you've got to determine what your value is. You've got to determine what, especially if you're doing something like trading skills that you have and skills that you've acquired for something else, like, okay, well, I'll build an addition onto your house, but I'm gonna want, that truck, and we're gonna this, that, then you negotiate and all that kind of stuff. But we've got to a spot where um half the country or more is walking around with a very inflated sense of self-worth that nobody earned, that nobody actually worked for. And then there's half the country that's walking around with a very undervalued sense of self-worth because we have this sort of tiered society that focuses heavily on rewarding the most narcissistic or the most mentally ill or the most
Kardashians.
inept. Yeah. Or the press secretary, who's obviously the most inept person for that job that you could possibly have on the face of the earth ever. She can't string a sentence together, let alone answer a question. She
You
can't,
bigot.
but I mean, but she's got the job. She was rewarded for falling up somehow. So people are looking for how to fall up successfully and how to fail up successfully, as opposed to how just simply like working for something and getting it that way.
Yeah, instead of bringing actual worth or value to the table, all you have to do is go on Dr. Phil and say, "Cash me outside." How about that? All of a sudden, you're a millionaire because you're a piece of shit. So they're rewarding pieces of shit just for being pieces of shit. And that's something that never happened before the internet or before, social media or going viral. That's all it takes. That's all these wankers on TikTok are trying to do, is go viral enough that they can start a career off of that. And I mentioned it not too long ago that I can't remember her name. I don't really care to, but she literally lip synced like a 20-second song, not her song, just videoed herself lip syncing a song, and has a career now doing, I don't know fucking what, but people know what I'm talking about. It was like the most viewed video on TikTok for a long time. And somebody sent it to me and I'm like, I don't get it. What is that? It's somebody lip syncing a song. Like, yeah, she's like a millionaire now and has a career.
Well, that's the new currency. The new currency is likes. So how many likes you get, that's how you value yourself. So a failure is no longer something you can learn from. So back in the day, in the 80s, 90s, if you failed at something, you would try harder. You wouldn't give up and curl into a ball and say, well, I guess I'm just going to go kill myself or whatever. And you try again. And you don't try again by making a new fucking video. I'm not talking about that, but actually doing something. People don't do anything anymore. People are just lazy. I'm talking about young people for the most part, just lazy and trying to get a few likes here and there. And that's how they're going to make money, not by actually contributing to society in any way.
Right. And at the same time, those people, like I said, can't really bring anything to the table as far as value. I mean, you can get a million likes on TikTok and not know how to change a tire. So what when you get up to that level, like what is everybody else under you? They're just aspiring to do that too, because that's the role model now, is people that lip sync on a video and get millions of likes. That's the role model.
People were helping people back in the day too. That was what you strove to do. Like you're trying to be a doctor or a landscaper or whatever you're doing. It's helping others. And now people are just making videos. It doesn't really do anything.
Yeah,
Fucking
I have
weird.
I have a 17-year-old who and an almost 11-year-old. But the 17-year-old I'm going to talk about in this instance because I'm going to on my way to go pick them up tomorrow on the other side of the state, and then they're going to come back here for the summer. And for the last like 2 weeks, my 17-year-old is going into his senior year in high school. It's been like, yo, can I get what can I do for work out there? Like, where can I get, what are my options for employment? Is there anything I need to do beforehand that I could level up a little bit, get more hours, stuff like that? And like, he's one of the few kids his age that I've been around that has like an actual work ethic about it. Like, he's currently at 17 years old, he's enrolled in Richard Grove's autonomy course, and like,
Damn.
That's awesome.
yeah, on learning all the crap that he only half-ass paid attention to anyway, but got good grades because he understood how to jump through a couple of academic hoops so that he could then go fuck off and do what he wanted.
Right.
But
Well,
like,
that's good.
That's
yeah,
how it should be.
yeah,
That's the main problem with not to go off on the education system, but is that they're forcing everyone into this cookie cutter form of not really education. Just learn these facts, spit them back out, boom, there's your diploma, and then everyone goes yay, and then that's it. And instead of actually, I think it was the Waldorf schools that did that, where they actually just focused on what the kid is interested in and just kind of took it that direction, because they're like, you're good at this, you're interested in that, let's go do that. You don't have to learn this fucking algebra or something if you're going into this field, but everybody's forced into this like bottleneck of education, and everyone comes out looking the same. It's like the Pink Floyd video. They just pop them out, same cookie every time.
I think there's a country that maybe Sweden, somewhere, some Scandinavian country that teaches that way. I think right now, where maybe when you're entering high school, they give out all the trades or just all the different careers that you could do. And they let you focus on that for your high school instead of focusing on all of the general education that we're forced to take here in America. They just let them do what they want to do to help them with their future.
Yeah, and there's a number of different I guess high schools. I can't remember what their official name for it. Germany and a couple other countries that do that. Or what they'll do is they'll take what you were excelling at a lower level in grade school and in the junior high, and they'll build a whole curriculum around that, and then they'll have practical physical lab settings in which you genuinely physically learn and then demonstrate that you're able to understand and reproduce these skills that you're being taught. And that's something that we've just got so far away from. We're not even teaching science as something that you understand by recreating it outside of a laboratory setting and reproducing the experiment to the same results.
Right. Which
That's
is actually
insane
science.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. We
I
have a
don't know what to
computer
say.
model. We have a computer model. We got a couple of mice, and we talk to the mice. The mice are fine. And now that we've gone into them, we did a little CRISPR this and we did a little spicy here, a little snippy there. And it's okay. They're all good. Trust us. We don't have to test anything. Just put it in your body. We'll talk later.
Yeah. Sounds great. And what's funny is a lot of people do say that, oh, that's great. Yes, I'll do that because it's science. Okay, well, and here we are. How do you think that leads into what you were talking about earlier, the technocratic takeover? Like, where do you see that going as far as, I don't want to put a time frame on it, but like, how is that progressing in your mind?
Well, so I'll tell you what, man. I was sitting around about mid 2019 talking with Whitney Webb and a couple other people about like how they're going to get to Agenda 2021. Because mid 2019, it didn't seem like all of the ducks were in a row to really tick off a bunch of boxes on that plan. And that plan had been publicly available for 20 some years at that point. It's not like they were keeping it real secret. But in the ensuing like 18 months, boy, we got a lot of boxes for UN Agenda 2021 ticked off.
That escalated quickly.
It really did. It really did. You need Will Ferrell to just drop in a red suit to deliver the line. You do. It is more effective that way. But I mean, massive steps were taken in which all of the foundations and groundwork had been laid and had been discussed by a lot of us for a long time. The problem is we operate in an environment of complete or near complete control in social media, in YouTube, even alternative platforms, Rumble and Odyssey or Rockfin, all that kind of stuff. There's still parameters that you got to work around, and if nobody knows what the platform is, where to find it, or why they should download it in the first place, and then you get it and the app kind of sucks, well, that doesn't do a whole lot for anybody on the other end trying to put content out through it. So it's
Yeah,
just
and it doesn't help with the algorithms either. I mean, the algorithms are new as of, several years ago, but it used to be you could find fucking anything on YouTube, and YouTube allowed fucking anything. And there was no like they did kind of do a thing where it's like, oh, if you like this, you might also like that. That's how a lot of people went down these rabbit holes on YouTube, is because YouTube would be like, oh, you're interested in Bohemian Grove? Here's a bunch more of that. Are you interested in this? Here's a bunch more of that. And now they dial that stuff back, because it's misinformation. But with the alternative platforms, I was actually just talking to my brother earlier about they're kind of, I don't want to say normalizing, but alternative media is becoming the new media because everybody's so sick of CNN and Fox and everything else. And so everybody and their mom has a podcast now or a video show. I mean, look at us. And after Tucker Carlson got fired, or whatever you want to say about that, with Fox, he started his own thing. From what my brother was saying, I don't know much about this, but he started his own thing. So he's becoming kind of independent media, but I don't want to say it's co-opted, but you can see it going that way, right? Because now that there's more of a normalization of alternative media, you don't think they're going to try to get their claws into that somehow? It seems like a natural progression.
I mean, it's really since Gamergate really is when YouTube was like, okay, well, we're doing this way now. And then there was the ad apocalypse in like 2016, 2015, where they were like, okay, well, we're going to seriously mess with your ability to make a living, talking about whatever it is you're talking about. That was another big step. And a couple of years later, they were like, oh, well, you can't question the election anymore. Now they're like, okay, well, you can question the election, but that one, the one that's coming up, you can't question that one. You can't, right. But it's okay to question the one that we took away a bunch of channels for people who questioned it, 3 years ago. You can do that now. You can. Man, it's I've been saying this on Slow News Day for years now. I've been saying it on AM Wake Up pretty routinely for the last 15 months or something like that. But the allowable parameters for conversation, for what is acceptable and what is conspiracy, all of that has been shifted entirely into the online space. It has been really since 2016. Hardly anyone watched the presidential election on regular TV. Hardly you saw when you saw the numbers when they started live streaming debates and stuff like that, like people's CNN servers were crashing because so many people were trying to watch. I mean, so all of it's moved into this sphere, and it's been here for, in my opinion, 6 or 7 years. There's a lot of people that are looking at it in the last couple, and that's fine too. But really, when you've got, the official CIA narrative being delivered to you from Joe Rogan before it's delivered to you on MSNBC, about a number of topics, including the whole freaking dim aliens,
oh God,
when that's happening, when you've got presidential candidates going on the most popular podcast on the planet and laying from all the way back to 2015, 2016, when Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders were doing it, then you've really, that's, to me, that's saying this is where the mainstream is. Now we can celebrate the fact that we get to have more out of the box conversations than we could have 15 or 20 years ago in these mainstream spaces. That's good. But also the potential for co-option, for misdirection, for limited hangout type actors is just basically there's no boundary.
It's unlimited.
Yeah.
And we always have to like clarify these terms, because people, oh yeah, Joe Rogan's awesome, I can't believe you talk shit on him. Other people are like, oh my God, he's totally, he's compromised, whatever. I don't care. When I'm talking about co-opted or compromised, even, it could be unwittingly whoever the channel is, and it also could be, it's not necessarily everything somebody says is wrong. That's the genius about the way that these people get their claws in, is that a lot of it is true, or at least a part of it is true. but then the rest of it is either misdirection or outright lies. So that's where it's hard to like pick everything apart, because you're like, no, that I know this part is true, but this other part, what the fuck? And so everybody has to make up their own goddamn minds, is what we always say. So just go into it with an open mind, whatever you're watching. But I wouldn't recommend CNN anymore, and I don't think that even needs to be said, really, especially for our audience.
No,
But
and
don't
I'm
listen
not.
to me either.
I'm not trying to tell anybody that well, Joe Rogan's mainstream media. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he's got the most popular podcast on the planet.
By
That
far.
more people listen to that than they do all of the mainstream media shows put together, and that you can go to his show and get what will become mainstream narratives in a few months, a little bit early, in a lot of cases, from the same actors or from the same originators of that particular conversation, and then it's filtered through a number of other talking heads by the time it gets to MSNBC. Why would the predator class not want to take advantage of that many ears? Why would you ignore after, it's that whole first they ignore you, then they smear you or whatever, and then you're right, or what, then you win, or what, that whole kind of thing. That podcasting was ignored for a long time, and it was laughed at for a long time. And then it started determining what mainstream channels were going to cover, because the internet doesn't sleep, because it's powered by research nerds,
And it's
because
worldwide.
yeah, and they're, so it's generating the narrative now, and that's the opposite of where we were 10 years ago. So of course it's going to become the mainstream space, because that's the main artery through which narrative flows.
Right. And like you said, it's all a tool, just like crypto. And it can be used however way you want, like a hammer. But what do you think about kind of like pivoting from that? Where do you think? So it is convenient that we all can have our own voice and broadcast ourselves on YouTube, and anyone can do it. Obviously, that's a double-edged sword, because there's a lot of dumb people out there that put their dumb shit on there. And no, you shouldn't believe everything you see. But with everything going, like you said, towards streaming sites and online stuff and online media, don't you think that's even easier to manipulate fake stuff? Which is kind of the fact checkers angle. Oh, it's so easy to get misinformation because just anybody can go on there and spout their shit. And that is true. But we talk a lot about like AI and all that, and how easy would it be to make an AI powered podcast that sounds exactly like a certain person? It's doable now. I can do it with tools I have access to. So like, how long do you think it's been since we've actually had real people on these major news channels? Like, how do we know the people on CNN aren't actually just AI CGI? Like, who knows?
I was just talking about this on the show this morning, actually.
Synchronicity.
In terms of that, because they're doing alien disclosure now. We have a UFO whistleblower. So if you're going to blue beam the planet, wouldn't you immediately convene a conference of all the world leaders? And then you could show the public literally whatever you wanted, and you could be like, oh, look, there's Putin. Yeah, no, the camera.
And it was a Pentagon verified video, so it's true. It's Pentagon verified.
Yeah. All the major networks carried it. They all had correspondents there. We all saw them. I mean, it's so no, dude. I can't stress this enough. In the era of artificial intelligence, in the era of deep fake, where primary source documentation is the only thing that's going to carry the day, and you've still got to question whether or not it's legitimate unless you've actually gotten your hands on it. Do you know what I mean? Unless you've been given access to a bunch of files that you can then share information with and have other people check and follow up and all that kind of stuff. Like it's become infinitely harder to verify information, but it's become infinitely easier for people to find out and do research on their own, provided they know how to navigate around things like Google and around things like conducting a simple search on the internet in the era of the complete and total censorship.
Yeah, and I've argued with a lot of people and actually caught shit for this, but arguing about primary source documentation, like how do I even trust that? I could have the original CIA document on MK Ultra or something, stamped, embossed, signed, and all that with wet signatures. I still can't verify that from my peace of mind unless I see that and verify it with my own eyes. And it sounds like a doubting Thomas situation, but really, like, because even if you have several people are like, no, I was there, I saw it, and okay, I didn't know. And if I was there and said I saw it, yes, somebody else would say, yeah, well, I wasn't there though. So everybody has to verify it for themselves. And so even primary documentation, and I've talked shit on FOIA requests the whole time we've been doing this show. They're absolute bullshit. It's so stupid. People spend thousands of dollars and years trying to get a specific FOIA document, and then it's all redacted, which is real freedom of information, right? A bunch of black bars. Gee, thank you. So even if you could get the unredacted part, like I imagine since it's redacted, the redacted parts are probably the interesting and probably more true parts, but you're not going to see that. So
maybe they're not though. Maybe it's like have you ever seen the bloopers of newscasters? It's just like a sketch where they'll have newscasters saying things that are totally fine, like they're not actually swearing, but they'll bleep out certain words and it sounds like they're swearing, so it makes it funny. So maybe they're just redacting the documents to make you think you're missing all this stuff that's really super boring.
Yeah,
so
that's the other
look
angle.
into it more.
It's like just any random page from a Stephen King novel, and it's taking 8.5 paragraphs to describe a single blade of grass.
Yeah. And it with the government, I can totally see that being a thing too. But yeah, it's just hard. So what were you talking about this morning? Go more on that, because I like this subject a lot as of the new Chat GPT and Midjourney and the fake AI voice thing. Put all that together, and that's just a recipe, and put it online. That's a recipe for not believing anything you hear, which I don't think is the right way to go.
We've been talking the whole time that they've been doing the Ukraine war about how like most of that has been done on green screen. Almost all of the scenes that you've seen from Kiev or whatever they're going to rename the city this week, that all of that has been green screen. Most of it's been fake. All of it's been staged. I'm not saying that there's no dead bodies or there's not a war going on, because there is. And we've talked to people who are on the ground there. And we've had interviews with people who, we're talking to them, hearing bombs go off, seeing devastation. Talk to a guy whose hotel got bombed. And he thinks because he had disclosed his location, because he was there as a journalist covering the wrong side, via a WhatsApp text, and he decided to go to a bar and get drunk like any good reporter. And so on his walk back to his hotel, he's watching it get blown up.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He was on Slow News Day the next morning, like still shaken up, still kind of drunk from the night before, like walking around showing us the damage and shit like that.
Damn.
I mean, it's so there is real shit happening there, but so much of what we're exposed to in online in the US and then in network TV, none of that shit is real. I mean, there's always some sort of manipulation involved. There's always, whether it's crafty editing, blurring out this, bringing something else up into focus, it's all a propaganda operation.
Right. And it's funny because the other side of that will say, oh, you crazy people, you think everything's fake and gay. No, that's where the middle ground is where there's truth in there, but a lot of stuff surrounding it is manipulated to some extent. My sister lives in Ukraine. The listeners have heard this 1,000 times, but my sister lives in Ukraine. She's seen blown up shit. She's seen all this stuff. So I'm like you said, there is something going on there, but how do we have any proof who's actually perpetrating it or what end they're working for? Let's just assume Russia is the one doing that. who's to say they're not working for China or somebody? Like, we can't know the ins and outs of all this stuff or the reasons that they do it. But if we're going to assume that there is really a lot of shit going on in Ukraine, places are getting bombed, then why the fakery around a lot of these videos and why the green screening? If there really is that shit going on, why are we doing this? Was there not enough actual footage of it? I doubt
It's
it.
not enough to show that it's going the way that they want you to think it's going, from my understanding. The people that I've been, because we're told here that, you know, I mean, Russia's basically on its heels every day, and that, you know, everything's going swimmingly, and if we just keep giving this little midget cokehead more of our money and weapons, everything's gonna work out, you know. And in reality, you hear people that are on the ground there going, we don't have any gear. They're putting totally green conscripted kids up to the front right now. They don't have any fucking bullets. Like, it's a mess. It's a shit show. It's basically, they're out of Ukrainians. It's mercs that are going in and, you know, doing the majority of the fight versus Russia's mercs. And then at some point, the regular Russian army shows up after Wagner Group goes in and clears house, whatever. And it's like, there's just nobody's regular military is involved in this conflict to the degree that they would normally be involved in a traditional conflict. And I understand that we're in an era of, you know, fifth generation warfare. I understand that we're in an era where people want asymmetric military superiority over the digital landscape before the physical one. But knowing that means you've got to be aware that you're going to get your, you know, a lot of disinformation while any sort of campaign is underway.
Well, there's other things too that are so weird. I mean, we've harped on Ukraine for long enough, and I think I'm hoping it's dying out soon, because I'm really tired of hearing about it. But you know, all the weird things, it was almost like the COVID times where all this weird shit came out, like Bono doing a concert in a war-torn Ukraine in a subway or something underground. Like, how fucking bizarre is that? First of all, you're in a war zone and you're a famous rock star, and you go over there in the middle of a war-torn country. Is that just his virtue signal? And then he puts on a free concert for the Ukrainian people, like, rah, rah, here we go. In what world does that happen besides a movie? That sounds like a movie.
Well, I mean, think about it. The president is a guy who played the president on TV.
Right. He's an actor, right?
You know, I mean, literally. And then they named the political party that they ran him under after the political party from the TV show.
Jesus. It's the Truman Show.
It really is. And so why not have Bono come down and play in a tunnel? Why not have David Letterman post up 30 feet up the road in the tunnel and have another interview while there's supposedly trains going by? Again, in a war-torn city that's under threat of bombardment at any moment. But we're just going to, everything's normal.
Yeah, we had the roadies there. They set up the drums and everything. It was all good. The sound quality, I'm sure, was amazing. That would be just as weird as when we were in Afghanistan or Iraq, having somebody go over there and play a concert. Everyone back then, you'd be like, "What? What is going on?"
Can you imagine, you guys, live from Kabul? It's Garth Brooks.
I thought they did do a country concert over there at one point.
I think they did one in Iraq. I think there was. I think
like that. I don't know exactly when it was.
In Iraq.
For the troops or whatever. Well, a lot of times when they do that, it's because they're at a military base that's far out of.
Yeah, they're somewhere in Kuwait. Yeah, they're not even in country.
And that could have been the same in Ukraine, but just the way they make it sound in Ukraine is that it's under a constant attack. They're just getting bombed the fuck out of them every day. But hey, you can go see Bono down on this street under the subway or wherever he played. Like, just none of it makes sense. Oh, also, here's some new footage of a fake fighter pilot bombing the fuck out of Russians. You know, like,
yeah, and then it turns out the video is a simulation from something that occurred in 2011.
Or yes, one of them was from a video game, and
right. And before it comes out that it's all a simulation, anyone who says that it is, who's just a regular person or has a podcast, are completely criticized and shadow banned and looked at like a conspiracy theorist crazy person, and then it just comes out in mainstream news like, oh yeah, no big
Right.
deal.
And that is the new tactic. And I've seen a lot of people kind of realizing this now, where we'll notice an irregularity, or somebody will notice something that doesn't quite match up, speak out on it, then it kind of picks up traction. It's immediately shut down by mainstream, and then 6 months later it comes out that that was really true, and then they go, huh, I'll be damned, then they move on with their day. And it's happened so many times, I mean, for years, but starting most noticeably back when COVID started, there was a lot of that. It was like every couple months somebody would point something out, it would be shut down, then a couple months later it would be shown that that was actually true, they'd move on to the next thing. And that's how it works with the 24-hour news cycle. It's easy to keep these Pavlov's dogs, just moving, just keep sounding the bell, moving it, keep sounding it. Here's a treat, shut up.
I think there's less and less of those people, though, not to sound like a crazy optimist. I think we're on the verge of reality news, people going out and doing their own coverage and shutting down those mainstream stations that are telling us bullshit. I like to think that at some point there will be less and less of those NPC people who just go along with what they're told and just listen and watch the show that's the news on TV and believe it.
See,
And
I would hope for that there's less people out there actually paying attention to any of it.
Or you pay attention to it, but with the right mindset. You pay attention looking at it like, this doesn't look right. This doesn't make any sense. You're paying attention to the news, but the way that we do, like, the fuck, this is a green screen, or this isn't really happening. We have someone on the ground over here. But people going out and doing their own research, I think that's coming up more and more, especially recently.
Well, and you can tell because they made it a smear. They've made it like they were trying to make it a punchline. Oh, you do your own research. Yeah, that used to be Jimmy Dore does a joke in his special. He's been doing it for about a year now. He's like, yeah, we used to call that reading.
Yeah.
It used to be encouraged. People used, when I was growing up, I was downright demanded from people that we go and read about it. That's what they told me every day at school. Go home, do more of this on your own.
Yeah. And they didn't mean Google it. They meant go to the library.
Critical thinking. Do you remember? I've talked about it so many times on the show, but I read an article close to the end of COVID that said that critical thinking is harming society right now. And it was mind blowing that they were saying critical thinking, which is the core of just humanity in general, critical thinking, that's how we grow as a human race.
That's how you do science too.
Yeah. They were like, don't do the critical thinking. No, just don't even think at all. Actually, just do.
Okay. I know that we're on the verge of nuclear war. I know that we just had one of the most, society shifting, lockdown, paradigm moving scenarios in history. But you know what the real problem is? Discernment. That's what we got to watch out for.
You got to watch out for those people that are asking questions.
So if you think about that, though, what would be the reason for someone to say that? That doesn't make any sense. It's against everything we've known for our whole lives. Critical thinking is obviously super necessary to grow and learn and just live in general and function. So why would somebody say don't critically think? I don't think it's this like, oh, they're trying to kill us all. I think that we're in some sort of, I don't want to say simulation, but something like the Truman Show, where they don't want us to look around because it's easier for them to get what they want. I don't know what that is. I can't possibly imagine what that could be, but they don't want us to look around. So I think we have to just keep doing it, keep waking people up, keep going out there and putting our...
And what does Truman do? He notices patterns every day. Remember, he started noticing that the cars go in a loop and there's certain people in the same spot every day. And he tries to subvert that by messing it up. And then it just goes right back to that loop. And that's when he really started waking up, was noticing patterns. That's literally all anybody in this community is doing, is pointing out patterns and saying, this doesn't add up.
But what did the people do to Truman the whole time in the movie? The directors and the other actors that were playing along, they would try to guide him on the path.
They gaslight the fuck out of him.
They would scare him, they would shame him, or they would coddle him and say something like, oh no, it's okay. Let's go eat some food and do this fun thing. Or they would say, nope, don't do that. Do you remember how your father died or whatever? It was just through these weird fear tactics or love tactics, whatever it is, it's all distraction.
It's all manipulation.
It's interesting.
No, and I feel like, okay, so it's, just as possible that this is all a simulation as anything else. It really is. I can't, in no way, shape, or form could I disprove that. But what I do think is that we've got the framework that like Michael Malice, a handful of those people, the analogy that they use, the way they set it up with the cathedral as what the establishment is or represents. This is 1,000 years ago, there was just the church, and the high priests were the only people that could read fluently, and they were the only people who could interpret what the holy books said. And
Right.
common man was kept out of the loop from these teachings, this ability to and they relied on the high priest for a lot of their information. They knew more about livestock than the high priest did. They knew more about how the world actually worked and how the earth actually, moved, and how things than the high priest ever would. But the high priest had control of the language. They had control of what was knowledge, and it was something that without them, you would lose however many centuries or whatever of understanding that had gone before that. So what we have now is a very, very, very similar situation where there's this group of high priests that have control of the science or have control of the narrative, and they're all speaking in a language that is fairly foreign to us because it's this like made up corporate buzzword empty shit that doesn't mean anything.
Combined
But
with legalese, the legal system is the same way.
yeah, and so we're left to either wander in the darkness without them, or be completely demonized as heretics for daring to question the high priest.
Isn't it wild how close it is to that as burning heretics at the stake? This is we're modern day heretics for daring to question the church of science. And people just, I don't know if they can't see it or they don't want to see it because that's been their whole life growing up, same as back in the 1,000 years ago, if you want to believe history, and that's a different topic. But that idea, though, that the church has complete control over everything, and the church was actually kind of a higher authority than the government, even like the king would defer to the church because that's what God wanted, and that's kind of how it is now. The government bows to Fauci or the science because that is the new God, and that's what we should follow.
Who tells King Charles that he's the king? It's the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Oh, the Archbishop.
Yeah,
I don't know all those positions.
but I mean, that's you're right though. I mean, even now, the church has to recognize the king before the king is the king or the queen is the queen. So even now that dynamic still exists, even if it's purely ceremonial. Although I think that we could all make a fairly decent argument that whatever religion it is they're practicing, they all sort of adhere to, even if it's not traditional Christianity.
Yeah, it's I don't even know what to think about it anymore because there's some people you're never going to get through to, and it's not that it's pointless to try to or at least argue your perspective, but you're just not going to be getting through to certain people, and that would be like the ancient people that were hardcore into the church and following. Like, you're not going to get through to them. They're going to turn around and light you with a match because you're a heretic, and that's kind of what it is on social media now. That's the burning of the heretics. They're censoring everybody. You're crazy, and you have no part in society anymore because you're not following what Archbishop Fauci says. And well, he's kind of out of the picture now, so that's good. I haven't heard from him in a while. Have you?
He pops
Has he
up
called you lately?
He pops up every now and then, every once in a while. And it's usually right after there's a large admission of something that was a conspiracy 6 months ago or a year or two ago. And then they'll be like, hey, Fauci, didn't you say this thing? And isn't it now the total opposite of that? And he'll come out and he'll be like, well, what you have to realize is that at the time when I said the thing that came out of my mouth, it was important in the moment, to use those words, whereas in this particular time, I have a whole different set of words with which to convey a new meaning. Are we clear? And like that's
Spot
the whole
on.
fucking interview. And they're like, it's amazing. My God, he's a
Wow.
magician. How's
What
he
a
do it?
wordsmith.
Yeah.
No, and most of what I've heard him say, recently is, well, at the time, first of all, your impression is way better than mine, but he's basically saying at the time that was true and that was the science, and the science is settled, but it's only settled till we change it, and then that's the new science, and then you have to follow that. So this is why
There's
how
an
are
equation
how do you
for
win?
the speed of science, and the speed of science moves in a direct proportion to how fast a bag of money hits my desk.
Fair fucking enough.
That's pretty much the gist of it. Yeah.
Well, it's like the China virus leaked from a lab in Wuhan. That's the new thing. So they didn't know where it came from. They were making educated guesses the whole time, but then they kept saying it definitely didn't leak from a lab. Why? Like, how do you know that?
Oh, that was
You can't
hammered home.
say that. It was hammered
Definitely.
home. Just like the vaccine is safe and effective before a bunch of people died and had adverse side effects. You can't say that. It's just not true. It's a it's a lie. Come on.
Okay, you can say it, but only if your product manufacturer has qualified immunity from the federal government before they ever distribute it. Because anybody
Which
else
they
who would come
do.
forward with a product and be like, it's gonna cure everything, and then it gave you myocarditis, they would be like, hey, you lied, that's false advertising, we have laws against that.
Right.
No.
And there's a great analogy to that where the FDA will pull a batch of peanut butter if one or two people get sick from a certain lot number. They will immediately recall all that peanut butter from that lot because, or, whatever, spinach. Like I remember spinach getting recalled not that long ago because I don't know if anybody died, but several people were getting sick and they narrowed it down to, oh, it's this lot of this company spinach. Recalled all of it. And that's a normal thing that happens. It happens every day. They recall all kinds of shit all the time. But instead, you get this other new product that not only doesn't do what it said it was going to do, but it's causing a lot of problems, arguably causing a lot of problems, at least, if not deaths. I don't know. I don't know whether to believe those numbers either, but that doesn't get recalled, even on suspicion of maybe causing problems. A couple of people throw up from spinach and it gets recalled, but these people are going in, dropping dead suddenly, allegedly, and nothing's even done about it. Is that not suspicious to anybody? How are people not seeing this? I don't understand.
There's an investment that people made one way or another with this. No matter which, no matter where you what side of this argument you fell on, you made an investment. And those of us who said, I am suspicious of all of these drug dealers, all of these dealers have a history of passing off bullshit product. They all have a history of lying to their customers. These are not drug dealers that I would like to have a transactional relationship with. And I think like I don't know about you guys. Yeah. I'm a degenerate, so I'm gonna look at this in terms of like know your dealer.
That's I agree 100%.
And I was having conversations with my adult friends where we all quit doing bad drugs a really long time ago, but I'm still having to have a conversation with them. Like, are you sure that you want to take an experimental product from this guy? Like, didn't that guy just get sued for $4.6 billion? Like it may,
Vioxx. What are some of the other ones? I don't remember.
Oh, Jesus. There was, oh man, I have a whole list of like not necessarily recalled, but products that had to be settled via lawsuit. Adverse.
Oh, right. And then they repurpose them into a anti-smoking drug or something anyway. So they still get their
Wellbutrin was one of the big ones that was like really fucking people up back in the there was Vioxx, there was
Fen-Phen, wasn't that one? Fen-Phen?
Yeah.
Chantix, remember Chantix?
Chantix, there was Paxil that really screwed some people up back in the day. I remember that. Yeah, I mean, all of these things are and then they come out last year and they're like, oh, by the way, it turns out all the information we were selling you about SSRIs, yeah, that's not true. Yeah, it turns out they're bad for you too. But hey, don't worry, we took everything spiritual out of psychedelics and we synthesized them, so we're gonna use those for therapy now.
Yeah, well, and what happened with SRIs? They came out with that. Literally, nobody paid attention to it in the mainstream, and people are still taking them. So this is the weird thing I was talking about, the brushing under the rug, where people question it for so long. They finally come out with a apparently legitimate study or whatever, and they're like, oh, actually, there's no scientific basis that SSRIs help depression or anxiety or anything. And everyone's like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go refill my script now.
Because they're dependent on them, though. You can't just stop taking it at that point.
Right,
it
because then
makes
you
your
go shoot
brain
up a school,
dependent.
right?
But then, well, you could, but you will lose your shit if you just stop taking those.
There's that, and again, and that's part of the investment too. That's I got a little bit sidetracked, but I do feel like this is a fairly important point to make, because they've made investments in putting an experimental drug into their body. They've done it to their children in some cases, or in cases they've forced their employees to do this. So they've made not only an investment in their own life and livelihood, but that of other people that they're in some way, shape, or form responsible for. And that act, the making that investment, that intrinsically ties you to the outcome, and it makes people psychologically defend what even the worst investments, because you're that committed to the result coming out the way that you need it to now.
Yeah, it's a psychological investment more than anything. And that's actually more powerful than the
It's an
monetary
emotional
or
and
anything
spiritual
else.
investment. Yes, absolutely. But beyond the physical, beyond the financial, it's an emotional and spiritual investment.
Right. And that's the hardest one for people to turn away from and be like, wow, I was totally off on that one, because it's an ego thing, again, like everything else. So you can't just be like, oh, there's very few people that were super pro, you have to get vaxxed or you have to do this, that have flipped and been like, oh my God, I was so wrong. They'll kind of cower away and you won't hear from them anymore, but they don't outright come out and say, oh my God, I was super off on that. There's not too many. I've heard a couple here and there, but especially not high profile people. But I mean, I'm still hopeful though. Like Jen was saying, I'm hopeful that I don't know if the tide is turning, but I definitely see more and more people that are, whether it's the COVID thing or whether it's pharmaceuticals or whatever, or psychedelics, whatever it is. I definitely see more people now that are at least kind of like raising an eyebrow to some of this stuff and going, maybe these crazy tinfoil hatters were onto something. Not all of it. The earth is definitely round still, but I'm going to go, and look at this one thing. That doesn't make sense to me. And that's fine. That's where it starts. And that's, what do they call it? The 100th monkey thing, where you just need a critical mass of people to start raising an eyebrow. And pretty soon shit starts changing, especially as well. Actually, we're getting to the end here, but I wanted your opinion on the, this new fad, this new trend of cutting off your wiener. What is that? And do you think that's changing anytime soon? Because I think there's a lot of people raising maybe two eyebrows to that at this point.
Can I just first of all state how glad I am that I'm a member of Generation X, and that when I was a kid, if we wanted to show the world that we needed attention, we got shitty tattoos and stuck stuff in our ears. Like,
exactly.
100%.
Stuff you could take back out. Yeah.
Oh, me too. I've still got, for the longest time, I could still put cigarettes in my bottom ear,
I still have gauged ears, and I'm 43.
And
I just got my armband covered up. This used to be an armband because like that was really 90s fucking cool in 98.
Like Pam Anderson barbed wire style.
It wasn't. It was
close.
Tribal, but it was very, very close. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
But I identify as Generation X because I don't want to be lumped in with millennials, as much as I actually prefer millennials over Gen Zers. But still, I identify as Generation X.
Honestly, they're really not.
I'm early millennial.
With now.
I'm very early millennial though.
Yeah.
So
fine.
I will say this though, to answer the question. I think that there's a window on people following through with, actual legitimate surgeries right now. I think that they probably burned that out for a little bit. It'll come back around though. As the money laundering machine moves from Ukraine to Taiwan, and we start gearing up for a fake war or a cold war or a hot war with China and Russia in earnest over the next handful of years, they're going to need something crazier than trannies to distract us with. And I feel like they kind of, maybe jumped the gun a little bit on unloading the transgender to transhumanist pipeline project. I feel like maybe that showed up a few years too early.
A little
and it's going to
heavy-handed.
backfire.
Kind of like with the COVID thing. A lot of people think they played too many cards too soon, and too many people caught on. And it seems like they're panicking now. And tranny card. Wait a minute. We've found alien craft that are not of this world. That just happened the other day. Somebody came out and were like, "Yeah, we have craft that aren't of human origin." And nobody.
We got bodies. We got full craft. They got people reverse engineering it in the military contractor warehouse. It's not even the government anymore. We got Kellogg, Brown, and Root on this shit. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Okay.
So it looks like they're just panicking, trying to throw all their cards out all at once, and everyone's kind of looking at them like, "Whoa, calm down, bro!" Like,
sir, this is a Wendy's.
Why do you have your pants off? What is going on in here? Oh shit!
Oh, I think they're just trying to scare us and then gain our trust, which will never come back.
No, I think that's gone now.
No,
for a lot of people.
You're right. I think you're right. Let me officially invite you guys, because we're doing AM Wake Up meetups now. Found out that there's like oddly more people than I thought in Sonoma County specifically that like watch and listen to the show.
Nice.
So we met down in Sebastopol at the farmers market last month. Not this weekend, but the following on Saturday, June 17th. We're going to meet in a little town called Duncan's Mills, and then there's a hike. It's like it's a couple of miles, and like a third of it's it's a little hikey
little
hike.
jaunt. You just bring a couple blunts, you'll be fine.
Are you bringing your dog?
Yes, and it is absolutely gorgeous.
Are the Baldersons coming too?
They're invited, but I don't know if they're gonna make it down. They just had a baby calf, and they got a lot going on up there right now.
I saw that.
I don't know if they can specifically get away. I'm going to try and get up there before too long, because I still have an air compressor and a couple other things from a year and a half ago that may or may not even still be there. But,
Oh, damn.
We'll see.
Well, that'll be awesome. Yeah, we'll try to get down there. Sonoma County is not too far from us. It's a few hours, but I'm usually off on Saturdays, so hopefully I am on that weekend. I'll have to check the schedule. But
dude, I think we're gonna try and do a meetup every month. It may not be like that specific week, the same week of each month, but we're gonna try and do a meetup once a month. So I'll definitely let you guys know what's going on. And anybody can find this out by going to amwakeupshow.com and subscribing to the newsletter.
Perfect.
Nice. All right, cool.
Yeah, so if anybody's in the area, open invite. Go check out the calendar on his website, and just text me if you have something coming up, and we'll try to put it out on the show too. But anything else you want to plug before you get out of here?
Let's see. I've AM Wake Up Monday through Friday, 7 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. Rockfin, Rumble, Spotify, and everywhere else. Podcasts are coming here in a couple of weeks. Slow News Day happens every Sunday. Every Tuesday for a while now, I've been doing a show with my friend Sugar and my old neighbor Teal, called Blunt Force Wisdom, where we get higher than giraffe pussy and just kind of break down the madness of clown world and talk about a lot of the more like, I guess, culture war stuff that we don't talk about on the other shows. And it's a total check out from, doomsday politics and all that kind of nonsense. A lot of fun. And that's on the Slow News Day Rockfin channel, Tuesday nights. We try to start around 5 o'clock Pacific. We usually start somewhere between 5:15 and 5:30. But we try to start at 5.
Well, I mean, it happens when you're getting higher than giraffe's pussy. I mean, I get it.
It's a goal. It's a goal. Yeah.
Well, dude, thanks, Steve. We appreciate you coming on. And
thanks, man.
yeah, I would love to get up there and hang out with you and anybody else who shows up on the 17th. That'd be great. We've been trying to organize meetups, and it's kind of slim pickings around here because nobody wants to come all the way the fuck up here.
Which county are you guys in again?
Shasta. I'll bleep that
Shasta.
out.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. We'll talk
all
to
right,
you
man.
soon. Thanks, everybody. We will be back on. Oh, fuck. Tomorrow. We're doing a different schedule now. Instead of Thursday and Sunday, we're doing Thursday, Fridays because we're trying to keep our weekends pure for the Lord's Day. You know how we do. All right. We'll see y'all next time.